fight and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Carlisle United, the team that's on the ball. Carlisle United, the team for one and all. You're looking good and we're with you all the way. You'll hear us singing every time you play.
Here Ken Leisure with a pass so true. To ball the stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run, the old 1-2. And
Hello everyone and welcome to this special episode of the Brunton Bugle. Yes, it's the big interview we've been trailing ahead of the new campaign. And well, you know who it is now. You'll have seen the episode title, you'll have seen the bio for the episode, and you'll have also seen the tweets we've put out. Yes, it is United manager Paul Simpson. Massive thank you to Paul for giving up his time. He is a very busy man at the moment, preparing for the trip to Gillingham and also trying to get some signings in, because obviously we're a little bit short in midfield because a few knocks at the moment. So yeah, really grateful for him to giving up his time. We covered a lot of things. We talked about his summer op on his knee, a little bit about his early career, a little bit about how things went last season and how things have gone over the summer and how things are looking for the new campaign. So yeah, well worth a listen. Great guy as usual. Big thank you to Amy from the media team at Carlisle United for helping sort out the interview for us. We're hoping to get a few more lined up this season in terms of speaking to the playing staff, but also hopefully a few people behind the scenes. Possibly, I think Nigel Clibbins is potentially going to come on and do one with us at some point. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, massive thank you to everyone for helping out. And just a reminder to everyone who's listening, we are sponsored by CUOSC this season. Really appreciate their support in helping us with our studio costs and a little bit of equipment as well that we're sorting out for interviews this season. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Give it a listen. Really good chat. There's also obviously the preview episode for this game against Gillingham this weekend, and obviously our League 2 season preview. Check them out as well. So yep, here we go. Here's the chat I had with Paul Simpson,
who came through their youth academy. It's going to be Taylor Charters to put his name and Carlisle United's name up in lights. This could send them to League One. They've done it! Carlisle United are promoted again!
Paul. First of all, I just want to say thank you for giving up some of your busy schedule to speak to us ahead of the new season. First thing I want to ask you is, though, how are you holding up in terms of your big knee op that you've had this summer? Because it must have been a bit of a different pre-season for you, because you've had to leave a lot of the dugout work on match days to Billy Bauer and Gavin Skelton, haven't you?
I have, yeah. It's been a strange one for me, but I've actually enjoyed it, to be honest with you. I've enjoyed sitting watching the games from a bit higher up. It's been tough for me to not drag myself down to the pitch side to shout instructions. But to be honest with you, I've been really impressed with all of the staff, the way that they've run training. We sat down over the summer because I knew I was going in for the surgery. We sat down and we planned it all out, and we had everything set up how we wanted to do it. So I had an input into that, but then you have to trust staff. There's no point having staff around if you can't trust them. And I think it would have been a bigger concern for me if I wasn't able to trust them. But I did, and they've done really well with it. I've been impressed with the work that's gone on. And then I wasn't out there for probably the first maybe 6 or 7 days of training. But after that, I've been on the side, and whether I've been sitting on an ice box and giving out the little bits of instruction from there, or just observing. But it's been different for me, but I'm bearing up. It's improving all the time, my knee. And the truth is, this is for the rest of my life, this operation. It's not just a short-term fix, and it's something that I just had to do because I couldn't go through with the uncomfortable feeling that I had for the last few years. I couldn't carry on again with it like that. It was ruining my whole life. I wasn't able to sleep properly. I wasn't able to actually, I like walking when I get away from here. I like to go walking with my wife, Jackie, and I've not even been able to that. I'd get to the end of the road and I'd just have to say, look, I can't do it. Well, my thought, I'm 58 now, but at 57-year-old, I thought this is ridiculous that I can't even walk 4 or 5 kilometres on a leisurely stroll. So I needed to get it done.
Yeah. You're just about to start your 43rd season in professional football. If you told a 16-year-old Paul Simpson back in October 1982, when you made your debut for Man City, 3-2 win against Coventry City, I think it was, that he'd go on to have the career he's had so far, how do you think he'd react?
I wouldn't have believed you for 1 minute. Not a chance. I mean, when I left Carlisle in 1982, I went to do pre-season in the July when I was still 15. And when you set off, I mean, at the time I think I had something like a 1-year apprenticeship and a 1-year professional. And then you hope that you're then going to get a proper professional contract, and you hope you're going to play in the first team, and then you plan to get to 35. And I never for 1 minute thought it was going to happen. And in fact, it's fair to say at the end of that second year, there was every chance I was going to get released because I wasn't playing well at City. Bob Stokoe had come to watch me play. He was the Carlisle manager. He'd come to watch me play in a reserve game. I was really poor in the first half. Bob Stokoe left. This is what I've been told. He left at half time. And second half, I did well. We got a couple of injuries with left-sided players, and I played in the first team on the Saturday. And then my career took off at Man City. Then I played the last 9 games. We got promotion. I managed to get 6 goals in those 9 games, and then that was it. Then my career suddenly took off. But I would have never have thought it. I mean, even when I started doing my coaching badges and was studying for my degree, I didn't even think I was going to go into management. And there's many times where I actually sit here still today and think, how did that happen? How did I become a manager, and how have I done? I don't even know how many seasons I've done as a manager, but you do wonder how it all snowballs and how it all just carries on. But I've loved every single minute of it. I'm living a dream being involved in football at 58-year-old. So it's fantastic, and I hope I've got a few more years left in me at least.
I can't obviously avoid talking about last season, so let's get on to it. So
Yeah,
after the euphoria of the Wembley win, it must have been quite a frustrating campaign last time out. You know, despite all the good things that are happening off the pitch, how do you pick up the players after a season like that? Because it's quite a different experience from your first spell as manager. We got relegated, but we were coming on the back of a brilliant second half of that season when we went down. So it must be a sort of different sort of challenge really for you.
Yeah, it is. It is a different challenge. I mean, to be honest, the last time when we got relegated, we'd probably already started building for a rebuild at the club in the December and the January. We'd already started it then when CVA got lifted. So when we went down, I knew we had a good enough squad to be able to come back up. This time, I had a clear thing in my mind that we needed to change the squad around, and that's why there was a major overhaul of the group. We've signed 5 in January that didn't sort of arrest the slide, and then we've signed 8 so far. There will be more, or hope there will be more. So it's been a big change around. So what I've seen from the group of players is that there is a different mentality about it than what we had last season. For me, that disappointment of last season will not go away. That's something that I will keep. I hope I'll be able to keep it at the back of my mind, but draw on it and just to learn from it. But I've seen a difference in the mentality and the professionalism in the group that we've got. And all I'm hoping is that we can that professionalism and the way they go about it will be reflected in our performances.
How do you look back and reflect and review on a season like that? It must be difficult because obviously you've got to look at the things and think to yourself, well, what could I have done better? And you obviously look at what could the players have done better. How hard is that?
Yeah, it's hard, but it's something you have to do. You have to, you have to have sort of, as daft as it sounds, honest conversations with yourself, and that's what I've done. I've looked at all the different things. I think we made mistakes from straight away from the start with our recruitment. I think we made mistakes in the level of the work that we asked the players to do in pre-season. We were on a bit of a changeover with staff at that point. And I look back and think those were mistakes that we made. We made some hasty panic signings in terms of our recruitment. And that was probably affected by the time scale, but also by the finances that we had available. So there was mistakes that we made, and then over the season, I look at the way we went about it. I had a spell where I went away from playing the shape that we've been comfortable with. So there was lots of learnings, but ultimately, I always do say, and I said this the year we got promoted, it wasn't because of me that we got promoted. It was because of the players. So I'm the one who gets the blame, but I think as players, I hope that everybody looked at themselves and challenged themselves to say, well, what could I have done more? What could I have done better? And if everybody does that, then hopefully we'll all learn from the experience that we went through.
So obviously there was the big change in November with the ownership, the Pietic family coming in and taking over. What would you say the biggest change you've seen since then, since they've come in?
I think there's just there's a real ambition to be successful as a club, and that's not to say that the previous directors weren't ambitious, but they were realistic enough to know that with the finances that they had available and they made available for me, we weren't realistically expected to be successful. Whereas now the Piatics have come in, they are making massive changes in terms of the infrastructure of the club, which is brilliant. Is making it a better experience for the supporters. They've increased the budget for the playing side of it, which always helps, makes life a little bit easier. Unfortunately, they can't change the location of Carlisle. We can't put it any further south, so that's still a challenge. But I just think there's a freshness, there's an ambitious attitude to everything, and there's a real desire to make Carlisle successful, which I'm delighted with because I want to be a part of that.
Obviously, you mentioned in terms of facilities and the improvements there, particularly new training facilities on the way in the very near future. That must be really pleasing, but I suppose at the same time a bit frustrating as well, because I think you've mentioned this before, it hadn't really changed since the first spell when you were in charge, had it really? And now we're finally getting that new stuff.
Yeah, I think it had actually gone backwards. There's very few football clubs who don't have their own training facility now, and we have one pitch. I don't like the fact that we're based at the ground, because for me a match day should be different. It should be special. So you should be able to come to Brunton Park, and it's not your Monday to Friday environment. So that's something that should have been done. I know there was talk when I left that they were going to move to Crichton Rugby Club and they were going to use that, and I think they did for a short spell, and then it just seems to have sort of faded away, and now the academy train there. But I think it's important for us to have a real base of focus for the football club, for the football side of it, so that we're away from here. We can get everything in one building. We can have the first team and we can have the academy all in the same building. And I think that's how you build a one club mentality, which at the moment I just don't think we've got.
Yeah. In terms of the other facilities, we've seen the fantastic new changing room that was revealed the other week. The players all look really impressed with it. How much of a difference has that made, particularly in terms of when you're talking to potential new signings coming in? How have they taken to it?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, because when I've been selling Carlisle United to any potential players coming in, I'm showing them the changing room. I'm showing them the idea of what we're going to be, what our training ground's going to look like. I'm talking to them about the exec boxes over in the East Stand. And I think players want to see that. They want to see that there's progression going on at the club. Because, when I speak to players and I'm trying to get them to come, I say to them, what do you know about Carlisle? And they say, well, not much really, but, what is there to know? So I talk about it all, that this is what the plans are. This is the phase that we're going through at the moment. And I keep using the analogy of making an omelette. We're at the cracking of the egg stage to get to the omelette, and that's where we are. But I think come the end of it, I just hope we get a really nice omelette out of it all.
So summer recruitment, let's move on to that. How pleased have you been with how it's gone? It must be quite a different experience for the last couple of years. Obviously, you mentioned the improved budget, but there is still the old challenges. And I think actually you've mentioned recently when speaking to John Coleman at News and Star about the fact that actually players are now upping their demands based on that increased budget.
Yeah, it makes it difficult. There's always one challenge or another, and because it's been reported that there's an increased budget, everybody gets inflated ideas, and also the way that I think it's the way that the world works, and we're all seeing that at the moment with these riots that are going on, or these disturbances, that social media just inflates things and fans the flames and makes things worse. And in terms of us, you know, I know it started when we signed Luke Armstrong, and people are saying, "Wow, wow, they're paying him double X £1,000 a week when we're not paying anywhere near that." So everybody exaggerates what's going on. So they've all got this idea, and they come in, and their starting point is probably double of where we're actually at, and we're having to negotiate and get them down. But that's normal. I've got no problem with players and their agents trying to get as much as they can. But we are quite set. We're not going to be ridiculous. We're not going to actually, sell the family jewels just for the sake of getting a particular player in. We're working within not a strict, not with strict restrictions, but we're working within a budget to make sure that it all fits in, because we can't spend any more than the budget. It's not a case of me going and saying, "Oh, listen, I need another one player. Can you find me more money?" Football League rules are set, and this is what we can spend. So I have to make sure I manage the full group with that figure that we've got.
In terms of the players you've brought in, I mean, the standout one, I think, for most fans is obviously Charlie Wyke. How pleased were you to get his deal over the line? Because obviously you looked at him in January and obviously went to a Championship club on loan instead. But just as I know it's a phrase people use, statement signing, but even a signing just going to get fans excited because he's a former player. He did well here, and he scores goals, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I mean, I've been really pleased with him. I'm actually pleased with the players we signed in January, but unfortunately they just weren't able to show the levels that I think they're capable of. I'm hoping now this season, with a new start, they're going to show. But Charlie was a big signing. But I'll be honest with you, I think Aaron Hayden was a big signing to get Azza back. Terrell Thomas was a big signing to get somebody like that. I think that's a statement from T to come from London, where he could quite easily have stayed down there in the comfort of his own home down there, but he's chosen to come up here, and I think they look good players. But I'm pleased with them all. I think the two wing backs are good additions to the squad. They're both at a good age, that they've got more development to come, and I'm just hoping that. Well, I'm hoping that they all fit into what we want to do, and they all show what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, and obviously you made a decision on the captains this week, and you've made a real point about the fact that there's a focus on bringing leaders into the squad this season. Charlie's obviously an example, as you mentioned there, Aaron and Terrell, but even the likes of John Mellish has stepped up to be captain in pre-season, and as you mentioned, Josh Fella and Harrison Neal. Is that been a real key focus for you this summer, based on what happened last season?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest things. I actually looked at characters even as much as ability, because I think it's what we need. We needed characters, we needed physicality, and we needed ability. And I think the players that we've brought in have brought that to it. And when I was selecting captains over the summer with the pre-season games, it was actually difficult with looking at the players that we've had, because I could have probably chosen 6, 7, maybe even 8 of them. And I think that's probably the reason why I always like to have a leadership group of players anyway. And that doesn't always mean the most experienced, but just players who I want as part of a group to sort of take a bit of ownership of the way that we do things here, because I don't profess to have all the answers. It's not my way or the highway. I like to think that we have a bit of sounds a bit of a fancy word, a bit of collaboration between us all, where we can all work together, because we've got some good senior players. We've got players who've experienced playing at higher level. So all of us together can come up hopefully with the right sort of plan. And if we do that, then we'll all be happy.
Yeah. In terms of the sort of what's happened with the change of ownership, has it allowed you sort of to shift your focus on transfers and think more long term than short term? Because obviously in the past, you often only get players on 1-year deals or 2 years, and now you're able to get players on 3.5, and actually invest in them as players longer. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example here. The way that sort of clubs like Peterborough do it almost, you sign these players, you might pay fees, but you sign them as a long-term investments, not just players for that short-term period. Is that the way you're able to think now?
Yeah, we are trying to think a bit more long-term about it as well. We're trying to get get players in who we can hopefully grow and develop, but also we're trying to get players who are going to come in and help us. You know, we want players who we think can actually achieve what we want to in League Two this season, but also be able to be a part of us if we can get up into League One. So we do have a little bit of a longer term view on it, but we have to do the first bit right. We've got to do this season properly to allow us to think even more long term.
Yeah, absolutely. There also seems to be a bit more of a conscious effort not to focus as much on the loan signings this season. How much has that loan market sort of changed in recent years? Because if you go back to your first spell, you could get them on 3-month loans. It was different. But even going back a decade, the way that half-season and season-long loans work then, it seems to have changed even now.
Yeah, I think the change to the loan system has made it difficult for League Two and League One clubs, because it used to be that you could bring them in on a month loan and there'd be a 24-hour recall after that first month. And now you can only do that once you go out of the EFL. You can do it once you get to National League and Conference North and that sort of level. So I think it makes it difficult, because we've got to try and judge that these players are going to be worth it for 6 months minimum, because otherwise you're saddled with a player who might not have any involvement with you, who you've got to pay the wages for the next 6 months. And you know, we're not in a position where we can waste any money. But also the other thing is, in this summer window, a lot of the bigger clubs don't allow their players to go out on loan until the end of the window. They want to have them for the whole of pre-season. They want to have them through the first few weeks of August, just to see where they all stand. And that makes it difficult to plan. I've sort of tried to make a real conscious effort this year to try and get players in as early as we possibly could, so we could have as long as in pre-season to work with as possible. Now, in terms of Daniel Aduajay, we had to be patient with that one, because he was somebody who I thought could make a difference for us. So he had to go to LA with the first team, and I just had to be patient and wait. And I'll be honest, I watched Bournemouth TV every day to watch him in training when they put the little videos up, just to see how he was doing over there in LA. And we've had to wait for that one. But it may be that there might be one, maybe two loans that might come in before the end of the window, but the picture for that changes daily and weekly, that one day they're not available, the next they might be. So we're going to look and see. Ideally, I would like players who are committed to our football club, who we know they're here and it makes a difference to us if we are successful or not. Whereas sometimes you get loan signings who they've always got it in the back of the mind, well, it doesn't really matter what happens here, because I'll be going back to the Premier League or the Championship and it won't affect the rest of my life. So that's why I like to have the right players in the football club. That said, I think there's been some good loan signings for us who've been effective as well. Yeah.
On top of recruitment, been some good contract news with John Mellish agreeing an extended deal with the club recently. How big was it to be able to keep him, when previous years we might have been tempted to accept it and cash in on those offers, and to keep someone who I think it's probably fair to say he's a real talisman now, isn't he? And someone who's a huge fan's favourite.
He is. I mean, when he's fit and he's not suspended, he is in my team, or he has been in the time I've been at the club. He gives you real versatility. He's such a good lad to have in the group. He just goes about his business quietly and gets on with it. Everybody gets on with him in the squad. And I think it's a big thing to keep him. When you lose somebody like that, it makes a big hole in the dressing room. And I was delighted when we made the decision as a club that we weren't prepared to sell him, because he did have 2 years left. And I spoke to the owners and said, look, I think it'd be a really good idea to show some real loyalty and give something back to John. I was delighted when they said, yep, go ahead and do it. Let's see if we can agree an extension to his deal. And the conversations went really well. It was clear from John that he wanted to stay. So thankfully we were able to get that agreed.
And obviously it was a sort of slightly different story with Jack Armour earlier in the summer, in that it's one of those ones where you've said in the past it had to be an offer that was right for us, and we felt it was an offer that we could consider with the options we had behind him as well.
Yeah, and also the way that it works in football nowadays, the players know about it before anything official comes into the club. So Jack was aware of it. He knew what was going on, and he said publicly the minute he heard about it, he wanted to go. So Jack's been good. Jack was good for us in my time at this football club. He played a lot of games while I was the manager here. But we'd signed Cameron Harper in the summer. We also had Jack Robinson, and I just felt it was a position that, the chances were if everybody was fit to start the season, Jack wasn't going to start. It would have been Cameron. So, it was right for us all. And as I say, Jack did a real good job. He was a big part of our team when we got promotion, and we wish him all the best.
Yeah. Looking back at last season again, the backing that the fans gave the team throughout the campaign, I mean, there was obviously pockets of frustration at times, but you must have been so grateful for the numbers that you continued to get, despite the fact that there was runs of poor results.
The numbers that we've had from the day I came back in the club have been absolutely phenomenal. We can't thank the fans enough for what they've done and for sticking with us last season. I know there was games where there was grumbles and there was moans, and I got a bit of stick, but that's part and parcel of football, and I accept that. If you're not winning games, you have to accept that's going to happen. But they've stuck with us. I think the supporters can see the positivity that's going on and the change that's going on at the club. And I always think that you shouldn't expect just one particular person or one particular family to fund the club. You need the supporters, you need the sponsors, all of the backing that we're getting from everywhere. You need that to make it a really positive, successful club. So the fans, that everybody in the area, in the community, have done a brilliant job. And we hope that now that we can put on some performances and, more importantly, get some results that gets that swell of support going even more.
Obviously, the aim for this season is promotion. That's been pretty clear. If you were to get promoted this season, that would put you on 4 promotions with the Blues and put you 1 ahead of the legendary Alan Ashman as with Blues promotions. How special would that be for you, especially as a Carlisle lad yourself?
Do you know what? The promotion itself would be the special thing. I've sort of learned. I've learned through my career that you have to enjoy those moments. You enjoy it, but it sounds as if I'm trying to be smart, but I don't really care about the personal thing that goes on. I know that if we have a promotion, my life will be better. I'll be better off for it. My family life will be better. My whole Monday to Sunday will be so much better. But I'm not really bothered that it's 4 promotions for me. It's 4 promotions from Carlisle United. It'll be a promotion that we desperately all want as a football club, because we all want to go and test ourselves properly at League One, because last season we didn't test ourselves properly. So it'll be a fantastic achievement, but we've now got a marathon to go to get to that point, and we haven't even had the starter pistol go yet.
This is a question one of our regular contributors asked me to ask, and I think it's quite an interesting one. What would you say your favourite game managing us in your first spell was, and your favourite game of your second spell in charge?
They're both the playoff finals, I've got to say.
Yeah.
The playoff final against Stevenage was my favourite game, probably just because of the ill feeling that went before that game between ourselves and Stevenage, because of their shenanigans in the 2 games. But that feeling, you know what, as a manager, it's a feeling of relief. So when you've done that, when we beat Stevenage, and it's the relief of going back up to the Football League. Yeah. But the one in this spell is that penalty of Taylor Charters, just that moment of, again, a feeling of relief. And that I actually took a moment of being a bit selfish on that one as well, because it was the first time I'd ever won at Wembley after however many defeats I'd had. So I desperately wanted to get that monkey off my back so that I could have that feeling of winning at Wembley. So I did take a selfish moment there to sort of enjoy that one as well. So those are the 2, but I've had my time at Carlisle, I've loved so many moments. I mean, obviously the first period when I was here in 2003 was really difficult and working under CVA. But once CVA got lifted and we were able to bring some really good people in, like Andy Priest, Kev Gray, Tom Cowan, then further down the line, people like Bridgie and Carl Hawley and Lummy and these sorts of lads, that was a brilliant time to be manager of Carlisle. And I always remember when I was doing my coaching badges, I watched a video of Arsenal training with Arsene Wenger and Pat Rice, and they had three different parts of the session going on, and they basically, Pat just blew the whistle for the start of the time, and the players ran it all themselves. There was no interventions from Arsene or from Pat Rice. And I always thought, wow, I'd love to get to a point where I can manage a team that do that, because it's all about the players being able to lead it. And when I left Carlisle, we had that. The players led it. We set it up, myself, Billy and Dennis. We set it up. We gave them the instructions as what the drill was, and they ran it themselves. And only at the odd occasions did we have to step in and give them a bollocking or make some interventions to change it. When we had that, so that was a brilliant time to be involved with that group of players. But I've just got loads of good memories of being at Carlisle, and also some crap ones as well. So I try to keep the crap ones in the back of my mind.
So obviously the season starts this weekend against Gillingham. Who are you expecting to be the big contenders in the division this season? I think Gillingham, actually, the opponents this weekend, probably ones people may expect to be up there.
I think Gillingham will be. I mean, it's really hard to say because we don't know what state anybody's going to be in when they come into it. They've all made loads and loads of changes. I would expect Fleetwood to be challenging. I would expect Notts County, Chesterfield, MK Dons, Gillingham, all of these. I think it's going to be another tough league. Everybody looks at last season, the fact that Wrexham, Stockport, and Mansfield went up, which were classed as the big spenders in the league. Yeah. But I think there's also some other big spenders in this league. I think it's a really competitive league, and it's going to be survival of the fittest, who can hold out for the longest, who can grind out results by whatever way they can. And I'm hoping that we're one of those teams that do it.
Just going to finish things up now because you've obviously a very busy man ahead of the game at the weekend. So obviously promotion, we've mentioned there, is the aim for this season. But what do you look at as long-term success for the club on the pitch over the next few years?
Well, I think we have to get promotion. We've got to be getting up to League One. But then long-term, I want us to be actually competing in the top half of League One, with eventually hoping to be able to challenge for those playoffs and automatic spots. I don't see why Carlisle United as a football club, with the financial backing that we've got now and with the support we've got now, I don't see why we shouldn't be considering that we should challenge to be getting into the Championship. Now, it isn't going to happen overnight. It's probably not even going to happen. A promotion from League Two is not going to happen overnight. That's going to take time. But then we've got to be looking to be building. We've got an ownership group who are trying to put a stadium together that brings it into the times that we are now. They're trying to put a training ground together that will give us another string to our bow and another piece of equipment that will attract players here. I just want the football club to grow and to be even better. That was the one thing I said when I came back in, I think it was 2022. And I said that I wanted the football club to be better when I leave it. So I think we're in a better place now. I certainly don't want to leave now. I want to stay here for a bit longer, or as long as I'm wanted. But I just hope we are in a much better position when the time comes for me to shake hands with everybody and walk away.
Paul, thanks very much for giving up your time today.
Pleasure.
Best of luck this weekend, and hopefully it's a stress-free journey down south. It's good to get the longest one out of the way, isn't it? In the first game, I think it's fair to say.
We've got about 4 or 5 of our longest ones in the first couple of months of the season, so we're getting loads. At least the sun might be shining at this time of the season. So thank you very much for inviting me on, and I hope we all have a fantastic season.
Hi, I'm John Halpin, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Yeah, Lee here, just to wrap things up. Just to reiterate once again, massive thank you to Paul for giving up his time to speak to us. Massive thank you to Amy from the media team helping sort this out. That's it. So that's all your content for before the start of the season. Me and Mike are going to be back on Sunday to review the Gillingham game, and then we'll be looking ahead to the Stoke game in a separate episode as well. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks to our sponsors, CUOSC, for their help this season, and most importantly of all, up the Blues.
Carlisle United, the team that's on the board. Carlisle United.
guys, Fabrizio here. Big news for Carlisle United fans. The Brunton Park podcast is going twice weekly for the new season. That's 2 episodes a week. Preview on Friday, review on Monday. The best place for your Blues content. Here we go.